The drama begins in the Chosun era, hundreds of years ago in a Korean kingdom ruled by a cruel king. A criminal named Jong has been caught and brought before him. The king sentences her to death for preparing food that spoiled the taste of my mouth. But since Jong is the head of the royal kitchen, the king gives her a final chance. "You will cook a new dish for me every day," the king orders. "No dish should be repeated. If I find your food bad, I will kill you on that day." Jeong reveals that she doesn't belong to this era. She was once a celebrated chef in the year 2025. Meanwhile, we meet Jong, a modern-day chef from 2025. She is a talented chef who recently won a popular Korean cooking show with her French dishes. Her victory has earned her a dream opportunity to become the head chef of a 3-star restaurant in France. She celebrates with drinks and calls her dad the next day to share the exciting news. Her father is thrilled and orders a book about the Chosun era for her, a period she has always loved. On the flight to France, Jong reads her new book while everyone watches a solar eclipse. A man accidentally spills coffee on the book. As Jong cleans it in the bathroom, she finds a page about a famous ancient dish. The next page is missing, but a line at the bottom reads, "If you are reading this, please come to me." Suddenly, the book begins to glow. Outside the plane, the moon and sun become one. Jong, the chef from 2025, begins to levitate. The glowing words from the book surround her and pull her inside, sending her time traveling. She falls from the sky and lands in a net used to trap animals in a forest. Confused by what happened, she loses consciousness. At the same time, the king is hunting in the very same forest. He is filled with anger as he remembers his mother's removal from the throne when he was a boy. He is ignoring a special ritual back at the palace, which has been put on hold due to his absence. The king's grandmother is worried, as hunting on the day of the ritual is considered a bad omen that could lead to the king's death. The king believes the rituals are wrong, as they remind him of the day his mother was dethroned. As he happily hunts a deer, his guard warns him that a solar eclipse is a bad sign and that the gods will get angry. The guard insists that the king will begin to see female ghosts if he doesn't return for the ritual. The king dismisses this as a rumor. Meanwhile, Jong wakes up, still trapped in the net. She tries to find a signal on her phone and screams for help. She is bewildered. "I was just in the bathroom on the flight. How did I end up in a forest?" Just then, the king spots a fox and chases it. He shoots an arrow, which flies past Jong, and another arrow comes and cuts the net's rope. She is freed and hides behind a tree, yelling, "The fox went that way! Don't shoot at me!" The king doesn't listen, so Jong comes out and shouts, Are you crazy? Why are you shooting arrows at me?" The king is shocked to see her strange clothes and aims his arrow at her, ready to kill. Jong runs to the edge of a cliff and pulls out a taser from her bag. "Who are you?" the king demands, still intent on killing her. "I am human being," Jong replies, which the king interprets as a curse. Thinking he is seeing a female ghost, he shoots an arrow that hits Jong's bag. She falls into a ditch but is not badly injured. "Have you lost your mind?" Jong yells. "Do you know who I am? I'll complain to the police. I have a lot of attorney friends who will make you rot in jail." "What are you saying?" the king asks, holding a sword to her throat. Then, an arrow from behind hits the king's shoulder. He feels the pain and falls into the water with Jong. After a while, some guards arrive, searching for the king. We also see Ji-young's hanging bag. Jong wakes up and sees the injured king. She decides to help him and tries to find a phone in his pockets to call for an ambulance, but his clothes don't have any. The king wakes up and, thinking she was trying to kill him, stabs her with his sword. He then attacks her. Jong injures his leg and snatches the sword. "Why are you acting like this? What drama are you filming?" she asks. The king is completely serious and tries to take the sword back to kill her, but Jong, with her impressive knife skills, fights him off. They struggle and Jong's knife hits the king, causing him to pass out. Jong ties him up and starts poking him with a stick. "Why do you want to kill me?" she asks. "Because you're a ghost," the king replies. "No, I'm a chef," Jong says. Meanwhile, we meet a character named Mokju, the king's mistress. Her slave tells her the king hasn't returned from the forest and it's getting dark. Mokju's rituals are also stopped. We learn that Mokju's mother used to run a brothel where she sold Mokju to a rich man for a small amount of money. In a rage, Mokju killed the man and was thrown in jail. One day, a man named Jason came to her. She thought he wanted to sleep with her, but he told her he was the king's bitter enemy and would help her escape if she did what he said. She agreed. Now, Mokju fears that Jason may have done something to the king in the forest. The king tells Jong he's thirsty. "Do you know the punishment for keeping the king thirsty?" he asks. "Look at my tattoos," he says. Jong scoffs. "Tattoos like that are on every street corner. It doesn't prove you're the king." After a while, Jong takes him to an abandoned house. "This is my place," the king says. "I rest here when I'm hunting." Zhang begins to tell a historical story about a cruel king who took everything from the poor and killed them. "You're telling my story," the king says. "No, this is a very old story," Zhang replies. She then ties him up and puts on some dry clothes she finds hanging on a clothesline. She hears a noise from inside and goes to investigate. A girl, Gil, attacks her, calling her a clothes thief. Zhang explains she's not a thief and asks where they are. The girl replies, "This is the Chosen era." Zhang thinks everyone is just in character for a play. "Will you help me find my bag?" "My phone is in it," she asks. Gil refuses because she's hungry. Zhang, who is also hungry, decides to cook. She finds some eggs and other things and begins to prepare a meal. She is a chef, so she cooks very good food and brings some to the king. "What have you brought?" the king asks. "Did you put poison in it?" "No," Zhang replies. "Show me by eating it first," yes, the king demands. Zhang eats it, then feeds some to the king. The food is very spicy. The king starts yelling that Zhang has poisoned him and that he's going to die in agony. Zhang eats it again and says there's no chili. Then Gil eats some and starts shouting too. Maybe people from the past ate fewer chilies. But they are both hungry and have to eat the spicy food out of desperation. While eating, the king remembers his mother, who also used to feed him with so much love. Zhang and Gil prepare to go look for the bag. Zhang puts a blanket over the king and Gil says, "Your husband is so lucky. You take such good care of him." "Hey, he's not my husband," Zhang says. The king isn't sleeping, he's pretending. Soon, his soldiers arrive and rescue him. The king says he has seen 2 witches and they must be killed tonight. After setting the house on fire, they leave. Meanwhile, Zhang is washing her hands and asks Gil why she was alone in the forest. Gil explains that her village was destroyed and she was hiding. Zhang realizes that Gil is telling a true story, and this is the same era she was reading about. Gil says, "Yes, this is it." Suddenly, Zhang's temperament changes and she starts shouting, "Help, help, help!" Gil quickly covered her mouth. "Hey, these are the same brutes who capture women. You shouldn't call them," but it was too late. Zhang and Gil, along with other women, were captured and thrown into a jail. Zhang kept screaming, calling the soldiers kidnappers. The other women scolded her, telling her to stop before they got beaten, but Zhang wouldn't listen. To silence her, they tied her mouth shut. Zhang was at her wits' end. She had just won a prestigious show, and now this was happening. She also couldn't stop thinking about the king and how she had insulted him. Now he would surely not let her go. A while later, all the women were brought out. Zhang asked Gil what was happening. Gil explained that they would be divided into 2 groups for different tasks. When asked her age, Zhang said she was 27. When asked, Gil said she was 28, so she could be in Zhang's group. This worked, even though Gil was still just a young girl. The first group, with the younger girls, was kept inside for special work, while the second group, with the older women, was sent to the kitchen to help. Meanwhile, the king's guards were at the river searching for Zhang. They knew she would come here to find her bag. I want to clarify that the soldiers who captured the women were not the king's guards, they were from the governor's palace. A guard tells the king that some women have been caught and taken to the governor's palace. The king smiles, realizing that those 2 witches must have gone there, and he knows exactly where to find Zhang now, in the kitchen. The women in the kitchen have no idea who they are cooking for. They just get orders and cook. A man runs in and tells them that someone special is coming today, and they all must cook excellent food. Zhang asks what the special guest likes, but the man refuses to tell her. Then, Eon, the governor's son, arrives and tells them to make good food, or they might lose their lives. Zhang agrees, and Eon pulls her aside. He explains that the chief inspector and his father are coming. They are good friends with the cruel king and used to practice fighting with him. They are both known for being as heartless as the king himself. The chief inspector, in particular, is a horrible man who drops his own hair into the food to frame the chefs and have them killed for his amusement. He has killed many chefs this way. "You can do it, right?" Eon asks. "You're not scared?" Zhang agrees to the task. If she succeeds, all the women will be released. Eon agrees to this deal. He tells the other women about the deal and they are all overjoyed. They combine their ingredients and start cooking. Eon watches them, thinking that none of them will survive and that Zhang will be the first to die. Zhang closes her eyes, remembering her father's words, and begins to cook. She relies on her instincts. Soon, the chief inspector and his father arrive. First, the chief inspector goes to a room where the younger girls from the first group are waiting. He will choose one to spend the night with. Then, he comes to the dining table. "What is this food?" the chief inspector says, looking at a piece of meat. "You called me here to insult me? Who is the chef? Bring them to me." The head of the kitchen quickly orders the guards to bring all the women out. Zhang is confused. How could he judge the food before even tasting it, she thinks. She steps forward and says, "First, eat the food. If it tastes bad, you can kill us." The chief inspector agrees. "But if I don't like it, I'll kill you." Zhang accepts. The chief inspector then tells the governor that he has a gift for him, and he brings the governor's daughter into the room. The governor is furious but knows he can't kill the chief inspector. The chief inspector says, "Look, I'll eat the food, but if it's not good, your daughter will become my mistress and come with me to my palace." Jong is confident her food is the best. The chief inspector and his father both eat the food, and it is so delicious that they are speechless. They want to eat more but are too embarrassed to ask. They realize if they praise the food, they can't take the governor's daughter. So the chief inspector lies, saying the food is very bad. Jong says, "That's a lie." The governor, enraged, shouts back, "You're lying. I've never tasted better food than this. You're just saying that to take my daughter as your mistress." He reaches for his sword, but his son, Eon, stops him. Eon, however, still orders all the women to be punished. As the guards hold Jong down, preparing to cut her throat, she screams, "Don't kill me! I didn't do anything wrong. Our food is good." Just then, the king arrives and stops them. He walks over to Jong. "You made this? How can I believe it's tasty? I'll taste it first." Jong recognizes his voice and, looking back, sees it's the same man from the forest. It's him! So he was telling the truth. He is the king, she thinks. The king orders the food, and making Jong eat it first to prove it's not poisoned, he then takes a bite himself. He is immediately sad because the food is truly incredible. He has never tasted anything like it. He finishes it and asks how she made it. Jong explains everything. The king acknowledges that she is a truly good chef and asks her age. When Jong replies that she is 27, the king says, "You're so old. Why aren't you married?" "I'm not from here," Jong says, "and you wouldn't believe me if I told you where I'm from." She then leans in and whispers, "I came from the future." The king scoffs, "Don't talk nonsense." He then announces that he's taking her to his palace and that no one is to kill her. For now, Jong's life is saved. The governor confronts the king. "Why are you saving these women? You can't do that." The king grows angry. "You're complaining so much now that it's your daughter's turn, but when my mother was being tormented, you stood there and did nothing." Meanwhile, Jong and Gil are thrown in jail. "Tomorrow we're going to the palace, but I have to get home," Jong says. "Where is your home?" Gil asks. Jong tells her everything. "My way back is inside a book that's in my bag, which fell from the mountain." Outside, the king looks at the moon. The chief inspector comes to him, and they begin to fight. They were once good friends and fighting partners. "I want to take Jong to the palace and let the rest of the women go," the king says. "And now we can stop killing women. I don't like doing all this." The chief inspector questions his motives. After Eon's promise to release all the women if Jong's food was good, Jong and Gil run away and go to the mountain. Eon finds the king and tells him that the two women he was going to take to the palace have escaped. The king smiles, knowing they would go there. On their way, Gil tells Jong her story. She and her mother came from a distant place to find her grandfather, but her mother was killed by soldiers. Gil had been hiding in the abandoned house. Jong tells her to come back with her to her house in the future, where she'll be free to be whatever she wants. Gil agrees. They arrive at the mountain, but the bag is nowhere to be seen. The king is already there and knew they would come. "I want my bag," Jong says. The king orders a guard to bring the bag, but after showing it to her, he throws it back down the cliff. Enraged, Jong curses at him. "Do you know the punishment for cursing the king?" he asks. "Just bring me my bag, and I'll do whatever you want," Jong says as the scene cuts. The next day, both girls are tied up and brought to the kingdom. They are terrified. The chief inspector confronts the king. "Why have you brought this girl here?" he asks. "I won't just kill her. I want to torture her because she's a powerful witch." "If I had a gun, I'd blow you away right now," Jong mutters. Meanwhile, we see Mokju teaching dance to the other women. She remembers what Jason told her when he freed her from jail. He said that the king was coming to the palace with the governor's beautiful daughter and that she had won the king's heart. He said the king would cast Mokju aside and she would lose all her respect. He advised her to seduce the king to get him on her side so they could find a chance to kill him. Mokju's maid tells her that the king is not bringing the governor's daughter, but a woman named Jong. This is a rumor that has spread and everyone has fallen for it. As Jong and Gil pass, children begin to throw stones at them. The guards beat the children and chase them away. The king tells them to stop. "These are my maids. Don't throw stones at them," he says. This makes Jong even angrier. As they enter the palace, Mokju runs up and hugs the king. "I missed you so much, my king," she says. "Who is this girl, and why did you bring her here?" "Am I not yours?" He pulls away from Mokju. "She's not a human," the king says. "She's a witch who appeared to me because of a curse, and now she's haunting me." Mokju asks what he's going to do with her. The king grabs Jong's face and says he'll torture her to death. He promises to make her suffer. Jong is terrified. Here, I'd like to clarify a few things for anyone who might be confused about Mokju's character. Mokju's mother ran a brothel, and Mokju was forced to work there. Her mother sold her to a wealthy man, but Mokju killed him and was sent to prison. Jason, a powerful enemy of the king, freed her from jail. He made her the king's mistress and sent her to the palace so she could find an opportunity to kill the king. So Mokju doesn't love the king, she is here to kill him. If you're still watching and enjoying this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Your support means a lot and helps me bring you more amazing K-drama recaps. Now, let's continue with the drama. Mokju starts to tell the king to go inside before winter arrives. Jong is terrified because people are staring at her strangely. The king puts a cloth on her mouth and orders his guards to take her to a special place. The king is then treated for his arrow wound, which was hidden by Mokju, confirming she might be responsible for the attack. The doctor tells the king that his bleeding was stopped just in time, or the problem could have worsened. The king remembers that Jong saved his life. Mokju asks who did it, and the king reveals it was the new girl. Mokju then asks which special place he sent Jong to, but the king doesn't tell her. We then see the special place, a very secure prison. Jong curses at the king, saying she saved his life and this is how he repays her. Gil believes the king is a good person because he gave her a bath and new clothes and now her life is saved. Mokju is furious and worried. She's found out where the special place is and is afraid of what will happen if the king starts to like Jong. She orders her maid to find out who these girls are and where they came from. Next, we see the royal kitchen, where two chefs, Bong and Suk, are giving orders to the other cooks. They are talking about the two witches who arrived today. Suddenly, Lady Kim, who oversees the royal family's food, arrives and gives them today's menu for the royal family. She then meets with the king's grandmother and tells her about the two witches. Mokju, still worried, fears she will be cast aside if the king begins to favor Jong. Just then, the chief inspector arrives. Mokju asks why he didn't bring the governor's daughter, Mio. The chief inspector says the king refused. When Mokju asks who the girl is, the chief inspector says he doesn't know and instead gives her a lot of jewelry. Mokju asks him to find the governor's family, which has been destroyed, and bring Mio to the palace as soon as possible. The chief inspector talks to his father about this and decides to teach Mokju a lesson, as he knows she is a traitor. Later that night, a masked man enters the jail, kills all the guards, and frees Jong and Gil. They escape. The news of Jong's escape reaches Mokju. Jong looks outside the palace and sees many people wearing masks performing some kind of activity. Jong looks for the man who saved her, and when she finds him and removes his mask, she is shocked to see it's the king himself. All of this was just a game for him. He loves to have such fun in his free time. Then they call the person who truly saved them, the king's man, Gong Gil. He is very tall and handsome, and Gil instantly falls in love with him, becoming infatuated. "It would be so good if I could have him," she says. "Are you crazy?" Jong asks. "He is the king's man, a cheater." "He's an actor," the king says. "He works for money." Gong Gil winks at Gil and runs away. Gil faints. The king gives Gong Gil a note along with money and tells him to find the person who attacked him. This reveals that Gong Gil is not just an actor, but also the king's secret spy. Jong gets angry, telling the king he shouldn't have done this. "It was just a game to me," the king says. He then orders his guard to heat up a metal rod. Mokju arrives to watch the drama unfold. Gil is tied to a chair, and they prepare to burn her with a hot rod. Jong starts begging the king, "Please leave her alone." "I'll do whatever you say." "Fine," the king says. "Today, you will be my cook." Jong agrees and says she will need to bring Gil with her because she is her assistant. Both girls are taken to the kitchen, but the male chefs protest, saying only men can cook for the king. Since it's the king's order, no one can object. They are given permission to cook. "Where did you learn to cook?" a chef asks. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe or understand," Jong replies. She then begins to cook an art dish of the deer the king hunted in the last episode, relying on her experience. She uses the same cooking oil that she used to win the French cooking show. News of this reaches the king's grandmother, who is surprised. Mokju also gets the news and is shocked. A while later, food is served to the king, who is sitting with his stomach exposed. Jong looks at him and says to herself that he has no shame and is begging. She criticizes his messy appearance. The king asks about the dish. After eating it, he is filled with an indescribable joy, as if he's been transported to another world. He asks Jeong where she came from. She gives him the same answer as before, and he thinks she's crazy. Mokju, who is waiting outside, tries to enter, but the guards refuse to let her in, as the king has forbidden anyone from entering. She manages to fight her way past them and peeks inside, seeing the king and Jong together. She is enraged. The king notices her and shouts, asking what's going on. Mokju says she has something for him, but the king refuses to let her in, telling her to bring it later. She leaves angrily. The king holds Jong's hand, refusing to let her go. He tells her, "I have selected you." Jong is worried. She wonders if he wants her to be his mistress. As a modern girl, she's not prepared for this and worries about how it will affect history. The chief inspector then approaches Jong and asks her to spy on the king and report everything she sees to him. Jong refuses, fearing the king will kill her if he finds out. The chief inspector tells her that the king chased Mokju away for the first time today because of her. He warns her that Mokju is a dangerous woman who will kill her if she gets the chance. I will protect you, and in return, you must listen to me, he says. Jong agrees but asks for her bag in return. She tries to explain what a handbag is, and the chief inspector understands. He tells her that the bag is not so easy to get, as the king is keeping it safely in the palace. Mokju is furious and asks her maid for a way to get rid of Jong. Her maid suggests using the chefs to harass Jong until she runs away. In the kitchen, the chefs have left a heat source on and placed cockroaches to bother them. However, Gil, who grew up in the jungle, knows how to handle these things. The girls return to their cell and curse the king. The next day, we see the same scene as in the beginning of the story, with everyone demanding that Jong be killed. But the king says, I am the king, so the decision is mine. Mokju's maid is the one who spread this lie. We then see the same scene from the beginning, where she was brought out to be executed. Everyone is yelling for her death, but the king says, from today, you are the head of my kitchen and my personal chef. You will cook and serve new food every day, and the food should not be repeated. If I don't like it, you will be killed. The other ministers and high-ranking officials are unhappy that the king is listening to a girl he just met instead of them. Mokju's maid apologizes because her plan has failed, but Mokju gets a new idea. She goes to the grandmother and tells her that Jong was the one who orchestrated the attack on the king in the forest. She also tells her that the king knows this and asked her to keep it a secret. The grandmother is surprised and says she will hold a cooking competition. If Jong fails, her hands will be chopped off. Meanwhile, Jong and Gil are taken out of jail and given a room. They are happy because it is warm and it was very cold in jail. They are given new kitchen clothes, which they must wear to enter the kitchen. The next day, we see them ready, having bathed and changed clothes, and on their way to the kitchen. All the staff are rude to them and refuse to cook. Jong says, I am the head here, and I have not come here to cook food. I have come to keep an eye on you all because the king told me to do all this. Everyone is scared that if they make a mistake, she will tell the king, and he will have them killed. Just then, Lady Kim arrives and takes Jeong to meet the king's grandmother, who is sitting with Mokju. The grandmother says, look at the conversation with your senior cook. There will be a competition. If I don't like your food, I will have your hands chopped off. Jong is terrified by these words. She looks down at her hands and then at Mokju, who is smiling. Jong understands completely that this is Mokju's doing. The chief inspector sends word to the king about the competition, and in the palace, preparations begin. Mokju is overjoyed, confident that this witch will die because she is going to lose. The king enters the palace and meets his grandmother, whom he hasn't seen in a long time. They live in different parts of the vast palace, so they only meet every few weeks. She's happy to see him, but the king quickly gets to the point. You haven't done well, he says. First, she is my personal chef. You cannot cut her hands. But if you insist on a competition, then the loser's hands must be cut, not just Jong's. He adds that if the competition is to be fair, the punishment must also be equal. The tools for chopping off hands are brought out and placed in front of Jong. She is scared, touching her hands and remembering her father. She knows she has to work hard and cook a great meal today. The king sits and thinks to himself, if you truly came from the future, you will have to prove it today. This part ends here. This drama is a weekly release and is still ongoing. The next episodes haven't been released yet. As soon as they are out, I'll upload the next part for you, so stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you enjoyed this recap, give it a like. I'll see you in the next part.